Hi, I'm Roxy Keller, and this is Baking with Roxy. Today I'm doing a special bake, and in fact it's a very special bake because I'm making a going away cake for a very special person. One of our coaches at Orange Theory Fitness is moving to California, and he is one of our very favorite coaches, and we're going to miss him like crazy. So we're having a going away party for him tomorrow, and I'm going to make a small two-tiered cake. It will be a rainbow cake. So the bottom tier will have 3 layers, the top tier will have 3 layers, and each cake layer will be a different color. And I'm going to do some in a vanilla cake recipe and some with a red velvet cake recipe. And I would do it all with red velvet because I've seen actually on one of the baking championships shows that they had the bakers make a particular colored velvet cake, which just basically means you add some cocoa, some chocolate to the flavor. And some of the colors didn't really come out very well having added the chocolate. And I'm only going to use 6 of the 7 colors in the rainbow just to make my cake balanced. And so the bottom tier will be 10-inch round, the top tier will be 8-inch round. Then I'll cover it with white cream cheese, buttercream frosting, and then do some colored drips and some other colored decorations. So I'm very excited to do this cake, and I'm excited to take it to the party tomorrow. Both of the cake recipes that I'm using today I have used before. The vanilla is the same one that I did for the Cinderella cake, and it came from baked from scratch. And then the chocolate or the red velvet is one that I've made before, but I don't think I've made it for this show. The red velvet cake recipe is from Sally's Baking Addiction, which, as you know, I've used many times and I've had lots of good luck with. So let's get started. The red velvet will be 2 of the 10-inch layers, the green and the blue, and 1 of the 8-inch layers, which will be red. And so I'm going to do 1.5 times her red velvet cake recipe. And the only other thing I'm changing, I think, is that she uses cake flour. I'm just going to use all-purpose flour. That's not that big of a difference. Cake flour has like 1% less gluten or protein, so ever so slightly different, but it'll be fine. This will be sort of the traditional mix where you do the wet ingredients in one bowl, dry in another, mix them, and you're ready to go. I'll start by weighing out the all-purpose flour. I need 540 grams, which I'm putting in a rather large bowl. 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda, 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder, and 3/4 teaspoon of salt. Whisk that. To the bowl of the stand mixer, I'm adding 3/4 cup of butter. That's 1.5 sticks. I'm using salted. And this is at room temperature. To the butter, I need to add 3 cups of white granulated sugar, or, because I like to weigh it out, 600 grams. I'm going to beat that with the paddle attachment just for about a minute until it's all combined. Scrape down the sides. Now I need to add 360 milliliters of pure vegetable oil or canola oil or whatever you prefer. And 360 milliliters is pretty close to 360 grams, maybe slightly less. I think I'll put in 350 grams. I also need to add the egg yolks, and this recipe calls for 4 eggs, I'm doing 1.5, I'm doing 6 eggs. And one of the things that makes it so nice and fluffy is that we actually separate the egg yolks and the whites, whip the whites fluffy, and add them in. It's not the only leavening agent in this recipe because remember we also used baking soda. So I'm going to add 6 egg yolks to this bowl and put the egg whites into this bowl to whip them up afterwards. I'll get this mixing and then add 2 tablespoons of vanilla and mix until creamy, which will be about 3 minutes. I also need 1.5 teaspoons of vinegar. That's another raising agent. Acids increase the fluff of the cake. Now I'll mix this until well blended, maybe 2 minutes. While that was mixing, you saw me adding the parchment rounds to 2 10-inch baking pans and 1 8-inch round. I'm just going to give it a little more spray just around the edges. Now I'll add the dry ingredients to the wet ingredients, alternately with 1.5 cups of, she calls for buttermilk. Again, she chose buttermilk because it's a little bit acidic, and since I never have buttermilk, I typically add 1 tablespoon of vinegar to 1 cup of milk, and so more vinegar. I've added my shield, which helps ever so slightly, and with the mixer running, I will add these 2 ingredients. Seriously, I don't know why KitchenAid has such a high burst speed. I'm just going to add the rest by hand. I'm going to mix it just a little bit more with the paddle mixer. Now I need to whisk the egg whites to a stiff peak. That'll take a few minutes. Stiff peaks. I'm going to take half of the egg whites and fold it into the batter. If you've watched my videos before, you know the way that I fold is that I take the edge of the spatula and I start at what I'll call 12 o'clock, pull it straight through to 6 o'clock, and then dig underneath, flip, and incorporate the eggs. Then I turn the bowl a quarter of a turn and do the same thing. And that's how you get them blended without losing very much air that you just whipped into them. One of the most important things about this technique is that you make sure to dig all the way down to the bottom to make sure the eggs are getting incorporated into the entire bowl. Now the rest. Now I need to divide this among bowls, color them the separate red, blue, and green colors, and then put them in the prepared baking pans. So I have approximately 2,300 grams of batter, and I'll take 3/4 of that for the two 10-inch, and then the other quarter will be for the red 8-inch. So for the 8-inch, I need 575 grams of batter. I'm doing this one first just in case I haven't allowed enough for this layer, and I can start over or add more. I'm using a super red. So in her recipe, because she's just doing one big red velvet cake, she put the red in before adding the egg whites because having to stir it more now is just going to lose more of the air. Again, we have a lot of other leavening agents in this recipe, so I think it'll be fine. I want these colors to be really dark and bold. Okay, let's see how thick this is when I pour it in. Well, that's 3/4 of an inch, so that's exactly what I wanted. Okay, that one's ready to go. For the blue, I'll do 862 grams. Royal blue. Definitely need more blue. It's not exactly royal blue, but it's as good as it's going to get. I guess I'm a pretty good guesser. That's right at 3/4 of an inch also. Ready to go. Also 862 for the other 10-inch. Just hope I have enough batter. Pretty close. Leaf green. I'm just going to go ahead and add a lot of that because leaf green is often kind of pale. Well, that's looking great. Still 3/4 of an inch, so it was like 30 grams short, but don't think it makes a difference. So the oven is preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm going to put all 3 of these in and check them after about 20-25 minutes just because they're kind of thinner than I usually make. And while they're baking, I'm going to clean up some dishes so that I can start making the vanilla. Before I do that, I am going to make some strawberry gelee inserts that will go between the layers. So I'll have 2 that go on the bottom tier and 2 on the top. And I'll make them smaller than the actual cake. The bottom ones will be 8-inch round. The top will be 6-inch. So to do that and make them about 1/2 inch thick, I need 6 cups of liquid. And several weeks ago, I had a bunch of strawberries and was going out of town. So I boiled them, strained it, added some lemon juice and sugar, and made a delicious strawberry syrup. So I'm just going to heat this up to just before boiling, add in some gelatin sheets, then pour those into different pans and let them freeze. This is so good. I'm putting all 6 cups into this pot that I'll put on the stove. I need to bloom the gelatin sheets. So I have a bowl of ice water. It's water with ice in it. And for 6 cups of liquid, I need 12 sheets of gelatin. Okay, 12 sheets. That'll take a few minutes to bloom, and I'll take this over to the stovetop to get it just below boiling. Okay, so my strawberry syrup was, you can see, maybe you can see it steaming, and I was just about to, it was just about to boil. So now I'm going to add the gelatin, and I'm just going to squeeze out the water that's in it. And when I put them in, you saw me put in 12 sheets all together. Well, a couple of them in the middle didn't want to bloom, so I sort of had to pull the sheets apart. But by keeping them in cold water, they didn't dissolve or anything, so just took a little extra time. All right, I'm going to add all of this to my strawberry syrup. Put it back on the stove top for just a couple minutes to make sure that gel is good and melted. Now I will put this strawberry syrup to the side to let it cool down enough that I can pour them in the pans that I have lined with plastic wrap. The cake layers are finished baking. For some odd reason, the blue one, which was in a 10-inch, took 28 minutes, and the other 2 took 25 minutes. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe I put more, I might have put more food coloring in it, and I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, okay. So those are cooling on the cooling racks, and the strawberry puree is cooling. So now I'm going to start making vanilla cakes. So if you saw my entremet cake video, you will have noticed that I finally learned how to put the cling wrap in so that it covers everything and goes all the way to the bottom. So the way I did it, because I want to put one piece this way and one piece this way, I put the pieces out first and then push the both in together at the same time. It works great. Now, these are ready for the strawberry syrup when it gets cool enough. Now, these are ready for orange and yellow, and then the purple will have to go in another 10-inch. I don't think I have another 10-inch pan, so I'll have to pull out one of the other ones that I've already baked. Now, the vanilla cake I'm making is again baked from scratch, the very vanilla layer cake, and they used 2 8-inch round cake pans. Well, I have 2 8-inch round plus a 10-inch, so I'm doubling this recipe, and so I need 340 grams, it's really like 336, of butter. I'm using salted, it's softened, and that means 3 sticks. I'm adding these to the bowl of my stand mixer. 800 grams of granulated sugar. That was 4 cups of sugar. To the butter sugar mixture, I need to add 112 grams of, it says, a neutral oil. I'm going to use the rest of this one. Finish it off with this one, which it's all vegetable oil. Now I'm going to mix this until smooth and creamy. That'll be 3 to 4 minutes. While that's going, I'm going to pour the strawberry syrup into each of the pans. While I'm scraping this down, I'll tell you that for the 8-inch pans, I put 1 3/4 cup of the strawberry gel, and that is going to give me about a 1/2 inch thick gel layer. For the 6-inch rounds, I'm going to use 1 cup in each of the pans. Let this go for another couple minutes. Now, these are going into the freezer to set, and since we cleaned out the freezer a couple weeks ago, they'll fit. Now I need to add 6 whole eggs, 1 at a time. I'm going to break them in here first. With the mixer on low, I'll add 1 egg at a time, and then 4 teaspoons of vanilla. Now I'll add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract and 2 teaspoons of vanilla bean paste. Now I need to blend together the dry ingredients, and the recipe calls for cake flour. I don't have any, I just have all-purpose, and all-purpose flour has only maybe 1% more protein or gluten, so it's not going to really make much difference. I know this is what I used in the lime cake a couple of episodes ago, and I don't remember what I put in the Cinderella cake, but it was probably cake flour. Either way, it's going to be fine. 688 grams of flour, 2 tablespoons of baking powder, and 1 teaspoon of salt. For double the recipe, I would actually add 1.5, but since I used salted butter, I just put in 1 teaspoon. Whisk. Now with the mixer on low, I'll add the dry ingredients alternately with 1 cup of milk it called for whole milk, but I only have 2%, so that's what I'm going to use. Whole milk is just like 3 to 5%, so it's just slightly more protein, not a big deal. We'll see how much of a mess it makes this time. Actually, that was supposed to be 2 cups of milk, so I have a second cup of milk. I was able to weigh the batter a little more precisely this time, and I have 2691 grams of batter, so that's more than I had of the other one. So I should have plenty for 2 8s and a 10. You can always cut them down if they're too big. So I'm going to use 650 for one of the 8-inch. Actually, I'll use that same weight for both. I'll do the yellow first, 650 grams, using my Baker's Gonna Bake spatula. This is the Bake from Scratch recipe, so I should be using the Bake from Scratch spatula, right? I have lemon yellow. It's definitely lemon yellow. Just a little bit more for fun. 8-inch pan. Offset spatula. That's easily 3/4 of an inch. I'm not even going to stick the ruler in there. Another 650 for the orange. Nothing fancy, it's just called orange. Definitely need more. Needs more. I can't remember if when it bakes it gets lighter or darker. Probably darker. Into the 8-inch pan. Offset spatula again. I'm going to turn out the blue layer onto here, onto a piece of parchment paper so that I can reuse this pan for the violet. It looks really dark, but I bet when you cut into it, it's more bright. The edges are always a little more brown. I just wiped off the edges where there was a little blue cake stuck with a paper towel. For the purple, I'm going to weigh out 975 grams. That's how much I have left. Make a little couple of cupcakes. So the rainbow is Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. And I'm leaving out the blue or indigo. They look, I don't know what the difference is really, but it calls for violet, and that's exactly what this is. I have a feeling it's going to be a little light, but again, when you cut it, I think it'll be fine. Yeah, very light. I'm going to add a bit more. It's not that much darker, but I'm going with it. Set spatula. Oven is still preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. So these are going in. I'll check them after 20 minutes and let you know how long they took. I have leftover cream cheese frosting from a previous bake. I had it in the freezer and I thawed it. It'll be great to use today, but I'm not sure if it'll be enough. So I'm going to go ahead and make another batch. I'm not going to run through all the details because you've seen it before. But then I'm going to start assembling. One addition I'm making is that I'm adding a tablespoon of bright white food coloring gel, which I have been adding to royal icing, and it makes it nice and white. So I'm going to do that. I'm also adding a flavoring called cream bouquet, and it's primarily lemon oil, so it gives a beautiful aroma and taste of lemon. 1 tablespoon. I finished making the new batch of frosting, so I'm going to add this other one into it, mix them all together so that there's a consistent flavor, texture, all of that throughout the cake. Delicious, it's a good texture, good for frosting the cake and doing some decorations. Okay, so the strawberry gelee is set and the layers are ready and the frosting is ready. Now what I'm going to do is take all of the cake layers out of the pans, see which one is the shortest, and I'm going to make them all match that. So they're all the same. That's the blue one. Here's the green. Definitely the chocolate ones are shorter. That's the red, green, and blue. And probably just the way the batter works. This is my cake leveler. Yeah, I feel like this blue one is probably shortest. Green is close, but it rose a bit in the middle, and the edges are a little bit shorter. So I'm using this cake leveler. I'm going to put all of the extras in here. red. It's pretty dark red. Orange. Ah, it's so pretty. Yellow. I think I'll wait to cut the other three until I'm ready to stack them. So I'm going to push them off to the side and cover them with plastic wrap so that they'll stay moist. I'm going to build the 8-inch tier on this plate, even though I won't use this in the end. So in the end, the rainbow will go from top to bottom, so red, orange, yellow. So I need to start by putting the yellow layer first, then orange, then red. Remove the parchment paper. I'll be able to pick this up with my cake lifter. This is the new type of Wilton bag that's almost like a flexible plastic. It's reusable, so I kind of like it. I'm going to put some of the frosting in a bag because I'm going to do an outline and then put the strawberry in the middle. So I ended up with about 3/8 of an inch. Fine. Now orange. After I get it all together, I'm going to do a crumb coat and freeze it. I'm just doing that now to make sure I have this layer centered on the next layer down. How red. Now the crumb coat. So a crumb coat is just as it sounds. It is there to stick down all of the crumbs. Then when I freeze it and then try to ice it again, all of those crumbs won't be getting into the icing as it is now. The other thing I'm going to do, because these cakes with gelee in them like to try to slip around, is I'm going to put dowels that will hold the layers together from slipping right after I finish straightening out the edges. finding it to be a little higher on this side, and I think that's just a matter of pushing it down like I did. So now I can do the crumb coat again. I'm going to try to get a nice edge on this top. That's about as good as I'm going to get. I use gardening shears to cut them. Now that's going in the freezer. Now for the lower tier, I'm going to start with purple. These colors are so amazing. I have this wooden display board with a cardboard plate that I'll set on top, and those are sitting on the turntable. Okay, so this one goes into the freezer, and I'm afraid I'm going to run out of frosting, so I'm going to make another batch of frosting and have dinner and do dishes and clean up, and I will finish decorating these tomorrow. I made another batch of the frosting and blended it all together with the previous batch, so now I should have plenty to ice both tiers of the cakes. So now that's what I'm going to do. Time to do the final frosting. The cakes are frozen. They were in the freezer overnight. And one thing I learned from watching them make cakes on the Bake from Scratch baking school is that they put way more frosting on the top than they need, and then they let it fall over the sides and then use that to ice the sides or frost the sides. I still probably didn't do enough because I'm going to need a lot more. As soon as I went to wipe my hands on myself, I realized I didn't have my apron on. And I am trying to learn to wipe my hands on myself more, just to save me from washing my hands as much. Since the cake is frozen, the frosting freezes or gels pretty quickly, which is a good thing because it makes it easy to make it nice and smooth, but it also makes it a little difficult to get off this top ridge, which in the olden days, decades ago, we used to leave that ridge on. It sort of added a little bit of an edge where when you put a border on the top, then that edge sort of holds it on. But that's not the way it's done anymore. I'm not going to put this back in the freezer right now. It's cold enough. It's going to stay cold for a while. And I'm going to set it aside, frost the base tier, the lower tier, and then put them together. I moved this off of the display base because it's much easier to frost without that little ridge on the sides. Another thing I learned from Bake From Scratch when they're frosting their cakes is that they put a lot more frosting on than I ever have in the past. I think it's just a way of making sure that you can cover up your mistakes. That's all I can figure, anyway. Kind of a scary part is putting the other tier on top. Okay, I can fix that. I added some powdered sugar to the rest of the frosting because I wanted it to be a little bit stiffer so it would hold some decorations more precisely. For the top border, or for the border around the base of the top tier, I'm just going to do something really simple because then I'm going to do some rainbow drips around the sides. So I'll probably put a regular classical border around the bottom. Now the drips are going to be fun. There's a lot of ways to make the frosting that's used for the drips, but I saw a little simple way of doing it in a video the other day. And basically, rather than using your homemade buttercream, use a market buttercream that, I guess it's more homogeneous, and the colors will blend really well. So basically you melt this, then add the color, and then drip it on. So that's what I'm going to do. Only takes about 10 seconds for that to melt. I'm going to start with the violet. I do know that this typically gets a little darker after it dries, but still want a nice dark color. I'm using just a regular tipless bag here. This is the scariest part of the whole thing, because it would be so hard to fix it if something messed up. Let's see how fluid it is first. Not very. Yeah, there we go. Just needed to be melted a little more. I think that worked. I think that's okay. Blue. What do you think about my cake, babe?
Nice. Beautiful. Gorgioso.
And I ain't done yet.
You're a great baker, not much of a painter though. unless that's the effect you were going for.
Okay, so trying something else new. that's what I do. And why I'm always so terrified. So what I could do is color the decorating frosting and make little swirls at each color there, but that's too much work to do all those separate ones. Thought I'd put all of them in here. We'll see if it works. All right, I'm going to show you how this is going to work. So what I've done before is taken a paintbrush and some gel and swipe it on in the different colors. But I'm thinking about trying to do it with the other frosting that I've already made. Let's see if it'll work. If it doesn't, no big deal. All right. Okay, it's time to add some bling. So I've got gold luster dust mixed with Everclear so that I can brush it on, and the Everclear will evaporate and leave behind the luster dust. So here I go. I'm just going to do some swirls. final bit of bling is going to be these gold dragées. Well, that's it. I think I've added enough. Hopefully it looks good. Hopefully the concept comes through. We've got rainbow colors. We've got gold dust. And yeah, we'll see. Hopefully it is received well, and hopefully it tastes good. I think all of those will be true. So I will add pictures to the end of this episode showing how it looks on the inside and maybe some reactions. Yeah. If you enjoy watching me try new things and work through how to do something like this, please subscribe. It would really help a lot. And please like and share. And I'll see you next time. Thanks.